in a cultural alignment with our market center, and our leadership team and our ALC will oversee that. So I heard somebody talking about, man, are we going to all of a sudden turn into a big office? I don't see any reason we need to be a big office. But if the right people, if we just attract all the amazing talent out there and we end up with 140 or 150 agents, so be it. But we will not just grow to grow. That's completely pointless. So that's, as long as I'm in the OP chair, that'll be my mindset. If somebody wants to go a different path, that's totally cool. But we want to help the people we have and grow them personally and professionally first and foremost. And it's really cool to see, people develop their careers. And I see Ryan on here, I see Jake on here, and it just goes on from, I remember them at day one and where they're at now. And it's a fun journey. So don't panic if you see new faces. These are good people. We're going to help them get what they want out of this business. And as I mentioned in a team meeting the other day, the days of cold call recruiting for our market center, that's not how we roll. We have a reputation now. We have leadership team and leaders in the office. We have icon agents throughout the county, not just one, not just two, but a dozen, I would say 20 really iconic agents that are well-known, well-established, and they carry our flag. Brandy is attracting instead of recruiting now. She's attracting talent from other companies that are curious to know what we're doing and how we're getting the results from so many different people. We're honestly even attracting talent from within the KW system. That's never our goal, but sometimes that will happen just because people may be at a really good office, but maybe it's not the best office for them. Anybody have anything to add to that?
I agree with you, Lonnie, on that. Geography is huge. It's kind of like church. If you're not within 15 minutes of it, you probably don't show up that often. Jake, you know what I'm talking about. So and thanks for the book request this morning too, a referral.
Yeah.
But yeah, people, I think it's huge. I mean, you want to feel like you belong. And Lonnie, like you said, not everybody belongs at the Southland. It's not always a fit for everybody, and vice versa at other market centers. So sometimes we're the best fit, and geographically we're in a great area as well. So it's exciting to see our office grow and bring in top talent. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, no, the great share. And there's different business models too in real estate, and no one is better than the other. If I've learned anything, I'm like, even KW, we're not for everybody. And if somebody wants to work in the cloud-based models that are out there, whether it's an EXP or a Real or any of those, or Platinum, the discounted version of that, then so be it. I have friends in all those brands. But at the end of the day, we are who we're best for, and we have a track record of growing people. I'll put our record of growing people professionally up there with anyone. But I'm excited. I'm excited for, Brandy's got her role down. Brandy and Caesar have their roles down now at a very high level. They're providing value to our agents that has been the best in my run that I've seen. And I think the word is out, so I'm excited. Jason and Mandy Rowe joined our market center. These are successful, established agents that also are investors that own real estate. So I'm excited to see if they want to plug into our investment club. So really, really neat stuff going on at our office that sometimes we don't talk a lot about. But I think we are getting better and better of telling our story. Yes, we know the numbers are skewed as far as, we dominate the Cass County market as far as any office that has a rooftop in the county. And it's ridiculous now how imbalanced that is. But I don't know that we need to apologize for it. I remember being on the wrong side of that conversation in 2009, 10, 11, and 12, and we've earned it. So let's stick our chest out there and scream from the rooftops of what an amazing culture we have in our office. And to see people develop and come into our world and develop and start to see the things happening for them, it's pretty exciting. And some of our new agents that just came on board in the last 12 months, so, this thing's not easy. And I see the look on their face and I see the struggles, and to see them having some breakthroughs and hearing the conversations, that gets me pumped as much as the, $500,000 listing appointment I'm going on. So Let's keep going with that. Anybody else have anything to add with growing in the office and culture and things like that?
I know I can add. I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate Lonnie. I just want to, even publicly, just say I appreciate your take on our people, and that we aren't looking just to grow to some magic number. We don't see numbers; we see people, and not just people, but we see families, we see kids, we see grandkids, we see legacies, we see the whole unit, and I appreciate that so much. So I appreciate that you have that, because that's different. That's not always that way at every office. So I know just personally, that's why I feel like I can get on board and be all in, and I can get behind that. One other thing that I would just throw out there is one of the things that my mindset isn't just looking for numbers to add to the pile just for the sake of numbers. I hate that. Ugh, that concept even is icky. But my thought is I'm always sitting there going, there's agents out there everywhere. Who needs us? Who needs Southland? Who needs what we have? Who needs our culture? Who needs our training, our education, our support? Who needs us? And if they don't find us, they're not going to make it. And if you guys are out there putting your feelers out there, you're doing deals with people, people, bring them in here. Let me talk to them. We might be able to help them and get them going, or overcome a roadblock, or take them to the next level, whatever it is. That's my approach. Is not just recruiting. Ugh, again, that word is icky, but it's attracting. It's finding the people that need us. I'm grateful someone reached out to me and told me about Keller Williams. I'm grateful that Ryan Finn met with Caesar and I 8.5 years ago and sold us the story, told us the story of Keller Williams, and we signed up, and our life has been different ever since. So I'm grateful to know the company, and there's other people that need to know about us too.
For sure. And even people that are established in our industry. I ran into a gal from Reese Nichols there in Belton earlier in the week, and she's been at it probably 8 or 10 years, does fine. And I know what kind of talent she has. And she would surround herself by people way above her. She would probably go to a completely different level, not only in her real estate sales, but from an investor standpoint. In other words, she's doing fine, but could do so much better if she was around Nathan Priest and Jake Keith. And I could just go on and on with people that not only understand the retail part of the business, but they've leveraged that into building wealth and things like that. So, but that's okay. Some of them will see the light, some of them won't. Some of them like to be with, kind of the big person in their little world, and that there's nothing wrong with that either. But I found out when I came out to KW, I had 20 rental properties, and I always did really well in real estate. And I was pretty proud of myself. And then I got into the first national meeting at KW, and I saw people running way faster than me, and not necessarily more talented, but just had a bigger vision. And they didn't want 20 rental units; they wanted 40. And all of a sudden, it just caused me to raise my sights for just everything I wanted to get out of this thing. And I think we can do that for other people, and meet them where they're at, but see what they're really looking for. And then I guess if they entrust us, we can help them with different things. So, all right, on to anybody have anything else on that before we move on? Let's talk real quick about broker Darren. Is Darren on today? Yeah. Okay. All right. So be sure you make fun of Darren today.
I'm here.
Oh, he's here.
Make fun of me.
There
this ought to be good.
Yeah. No, just I was going to compliment you. We take our broker sometimes for granted because I think with our office, we're not an office where everything lands in the broker's lap. Many offices, that's exactly how it works. And the broker probably, wants to pull their hair out most of the time. Yes, Darren's our managing broker. He oversees everything we do. And honestly, if we do things wrong, it is his problem as much as it is yours. So we are getting ready to get scrutinized in the form of an audit, which they slap you on the hand on all kinds of things. No matter how good you do, the files that get picked, they will point out the things that could have been done better. So, be thick-skinned. It's just part of the process. My files will get scrutinized just like yours. But some of the things, and where I was going with that also is Darren not only is our managing broker, but I would like to think we have sub brokers. And by that, I just mean we have a lot of people with brokers license in our markets and a very high percentage. And you could go on with whether it's Sandy Paxton and myself, and there's 8 or 10 other people. I'm sorry, I don't have Joe Goodwin, and there's just many. But we're all resources just like a broker. Yes, he has the ultimate call, but so many of us can pick off those basic questions and everything, so it doesn't need to end up in broker Darren's lap. And then Darren also sometimes can reach out to Nathan Priest and reach out to these different people to powwow on certain unique challenges and things like that. So I kind of feel like yes, Darren's the boss, but we also have a great broker support system around him to keep his sanity. So anybody have anything to add to that? Okay.
Appreciate you, Darren.
Yes. Very, very much. Very, very much. Okay, let's talk about some concepts and strategize around some of these things. First of all, we're a really, really good listing office. We list houses at a high level. You guys have more signs out there than anybody in our marketplace, and it's not even close. And of course, I'm greedy, so I want to see everybody that has X amount of listings have more. I think what we need to be thinking about, and Brandy and I talked a little bit about this at the early stage of this call, is we've got to figure out how in our conversations to get our butts in people's kitchens, okay? And I don't care if they're even selling this year, to be honest with you. I just want appointments with people that potentially could be sellers, okay? And if that business ends up being in 2027 or 2028, I just call that pipeline, right? So, but we've got to get those conversations started. And some of the things that I've been able to do to get those meetings, and my wife will even go, why do you meet with them? You just told me they're not going to be ready till next year. They want their kids to finish out whatever school, whatever it is. I go, you're missing the point, honey. I want to build rapport with them. I want to be in front of them. So I'll do anything to get into their kitchen. So, and some of the techniques that I'll use are just simply things like this. Hey, I know you guys aren't going to sell till next year, but what I found is the people that do the best in this process start their planning months, if not even a year before they're ready to do anything. Well, what do you mean by that? Just simply means we lay out the foundation of what this looks like. So I know your house, you live in Lakeshore. I would tell you it would serve you really well for me to just stop in on you guys. Give me 30 minutes. Let me walk the property. And then if nothing else, I'll be able to, from that point on, know what you have there. And if you want me to start figuring out what would need to be done to the property to sell for the most amount of money, whether that's now or later, I'll create that punch list for you. I'll have a list of contractors and so on and so forth. It is never too early to plan. And I have used that line. It's never too early to plan. For my entire career. And I will tell you, people love it. Okay. I'm sure I stole it from someone, but it's never too early to plan. Try that, guys. Say it can work on the buyer side too. Oh, we're not ready to start looking at houses. We haven't even done our pre-approval. It's never too early to plan. Let's do a consultation in my market center, come in for 30 minutes and a coffee, that sort of thing. Anybody have any experience with getting in front of people early like that you might want to share?
I can jump in on this one, guys. Yeah, I definitely prefer the listing side of things. And ultimately, like over an average, of course, of the year, try to take about 3 listings a month. So about 36 listings a year. And right now, most of those are selling. So that number will probably need to go up if the market changes or whatever. But, a lot of times it was just go to one appointment, and meet with them and list the property and get hired. Well, the market's a little bit different now. It's a little bit slower now, and people aren't quite as anxious to get on the market so quickly. Some are, but not everybody is. And so I typed in the comments section there, we create a baseline right now. Let's do this. And much like your spiel, Lonnie, is just to go in, hey, I want to walk your property. I'll give you some ideas. And then let's talk a little bit about strategy and timeline, and then we can work up to it. But right now we'll create that baseline of what we feel like your property is and what the market's doing to perform. And then we'll just check back in on that in 6 months or a year, and we'll know how far we have come since then. You can see what the changes of the market is. And by the way, I know you're wanting to get into the market and buy another property. We can start to learn the market on the buy side too, and you can see what's coming on and going off that's in your price range and in the area that you're preferring right now. So you'll have a good understanding of what's happening. You'll be up to speed and you'll be ready to get into the market next year.
Love that. Absolutely love that.
And
In a perfect world, every meeting you'd go on, you'd bring your sign with you in your lot box. And, and there are times that will happen, but it's becoming so rare to not have a multi-stage listing, at least for us. So prepare that it's multiple meetings, multiple conversations.
It's 7 minutes away, period. What time can you go? Question mark. I can schedule the appointment.
Good job, Brandy.
Brandy, you're on mute.
Sorry, I have a kiddo who's sick in Tulsa. I got to find an urgent care. So it's sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't muted.
That's all good.
Oh, hey, you didn't use any bad words. That's good.
I usually don't.
I know. But by getting in there with these people, again, they'll be like, oh, our house is a dump. It's not ready. And go, guys, I look at houses in all conditions. I'm not bringing a buyer with me today. Let me just walk through it. I'll get an idea of what you have there. It does a couple things. A, you walk through their house, you get an idea of the floor plan. You get an idea of the overall condition. In other words, how much ramp up time would they need to be market ready? That's what's going on in my mind when I'm meeting with them. And really, as much as anything, you're building rapport with the people, okay? Once you get through that threshold, the idea of them hiring you when the time is right versus somebody else, I would say you now move to the top of the food chain almost every single time, unless you make a bad impression while you're there, and then that's on you. It's never too early with that person. Hey, I know, guys, you're probably not going to sell till the fourth quarter, but here's what I suggest. I'm going to create a punch list for you, which will help you as you want to get some contractors in and out of the house. But also, I'm going to put a link together with some of the comparable sales around you. And it's not a bad idea for you to watch these houses and see what's coming and going. So sometimes we'll put a search for them on houses similar to theirs, so they can see the houses in Eagle Glen and Stonegate and Creekmore coming on the market. Then those houses would be competition if they were coming on the market today. They'll also, in doing that, they'll not only see prices, but if they're like everybody else, they're going to look at the pictures. In other words, they're going to see the quality of the homes as they're brought to market. Anybody have anything to add there? We're good?
That's always good, because you'll get to their house and they always have the biggest lot, the best floor plan, that extra 7 square feet of finished footage in their house that no one else has. That little upgrade. So it's good for them to be able to see all those pictures, because it's great for you pulling your comps too, because Lonnie, I'm sure you've been in these meetings, and Jake, you too. You'll get in there and they're like, oh, my neighbors, they sold their house for $395,000 down the road, and you actually have the comp like, well, it was on the market for $395, but they actually sold it for $370. Oh, and so that's that reality check. They go, oh, okay, they didn't get exactly what they said they did, and so again, that gets them in the understanding of what the market really is and the negotiation process that what will most likely take place with their house too.
Another thing you can do is, not only is it be early, like I said, it's never too early, because we, again, want to use the line that it's never too early to plan. And the people that plan the best have the best outcome, which the best outcome in my world is the least amount of time and the most amount of money. You can tie that conversation together and just make that part of your tool in your tool belt. You're going to be in pretty good shape. So not only early, but I would also say often. It is not uncommon for us, if we have a listing that's still 3, 4, or 6 months out, people are starting to do some projects on the house. It's not uncommon that when they get a little bit closer, hey, by the way, our painter's done now, our flooring went in last weekend, that kind of stuff. It's not, I might invite myself back over and go, hey, do you guys care if I swing by? Sounds like we've made a lot of progress. I know you're still not talking about going until September or October, but I'd love to see where you're at. Sure, LB, stop by after work tomorrow, that kind of thing. So not only early, but often. Why often? More rapport, get to know them even better. And again, if you're in that house multiple times, is there even a higher chance that you're the one that will be conducting business with them? I would say yes in most cases. So those are just some things that have worked extremely well for us over a lot of years. I have no problem with seeing houses multiple times. I look at it, if the average commissioner office is a little over $9,000 for a $9,000 check, I don't mind seeing a house 3 or 4 times if I have to before we launch it. Our listings on my team are closer to 13,000 on average. $13,000 check, I'll go in there a bunch of times if need be. I'm looking at that saying on the per hour basis, I'm good with that. So as we start consulting people, one of the most important things beyond making obviously a favorable impression, it goes without saying, is be solution based. You've got to go in there and expect they're going to need some help with some things. So don't go in there without being solution based. Now, I never get put on the spot. So as I go through and all of a sudden I'm like, holy smokes, they need painters, carpet, and all that stuff. I'm not going to sit there and dial them all up on my phone. We're usually going to go, hey, now that we've talked about a punch list, once I get back to my office tomorrow, look for an email from me and I'll kind of highlight our meeting and some of the bigger rocks we talked about. And with your permission, I'll go ahead and include 4 or 5 good vendors that I think can help you during this process. So that works out extremely well. Does anybody on this call do that when they're in front of people? Yeah.
It shows your value right away.
Shows your value. Shows you're the expert of choice. Gary Keller used to always say the local expert of choice. I always like that. Shows you're the expert of choice. You go in there and not just, every once in a while we walk into a house that doesn't need anything. But I can't even think of the last time I walked into one like that, right? There's always something, even if it's just minor staging or something like that. So for our sellers, kind of moving the ball down the field, our sellers are now closer to listing. Let's say we're having that meeting where we're dropping off a seller's disclosure. We're talking about things. Now it's time to map out the process. And mapping out the process will save you more grief, time, and anxiety than anything. And if you're not sure what the process is, then maybe you need to work on mapping out the process and getting that clear in your mind. So for example, for us, what I'm going to do with them is just kind of go through the dozen or so stages of this process. The first one is preparation, folks, and that's what you're doing now, getting your house ready to go on the market and so on and so forth. And then once you're about ready, that will allow us to execute the pre-MLS or the coming soon. I'll explain to them what coming soon means. By the way, if that's explained properly, there's not a seller in the world that's not going to think that's the coolest thing ever. Okay. Hey guys, we're about 2 weeks before you're ready for photography and to launch. We're going to go on and list you in the coming soon. Well, what's that mean, LB? Well, that means this. Now 13,000 agents will know your house is going to be on the market, and it also is out there on Zillow. Zillow, you've probably heard of Zillow. Oh, yeah. So it's out on Zillow? Yeah, it is. It's just one cursory picture, but trust me, it will make the phone ring, and that will assure us of a fast launch once we're ready to get started. So I'm going to hit them with preparation stage, kind of getting ready for the listing, pre-MLS, what that looks like, why we do that, and then the actual taking the photography and launching. Usually for us, we take photography and launch 2 days later because it's time to review the photography and fine tune that process. And then, okay, here it goes. Depending on their house and what they have, you have to prepare them what that initial launch is going to look like. So if they have a 350 house in Raymore that's just as cute as a button, Katie, bar the door, right? It's going to be a little busy weekend one. So let them know, here's what we often see in your price range. And it's that first 3 days can be pretty busy, not only with a lot of phone calls for me, but eventual showing appointments. And so, have them prepared for that. If that house is an 850 house on 20 acres, it's probably going to look a little different, right? They're not going to have 6 showings in the first weekend, most likely. So prepare them for that as well. And why that is, buyer pool gets much smaller as price goes higher, right, guys? We all know that. Then you add in large acreage and you just take the 850 buyer pool, and now you need people that want large acreage, right? So the pool gets smaller and smaller. That all will determine your traffic patterns and things like that. Anybody have anything to add with just that part of the conversation? Okay, good. I got a lot to share.
Talkative group this morning.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot
We're
of people in
making
here.
Lonnie work for it.
What's that?
I said we're making you work for it.
That's all right. I don't mind putting somebody on the spot either.
We thought we were going to
Yeah.
talk about triangles.
Yeah. No triangle. No triangle. Dang it. So map out the process for them. Be very clear what these stages look like. Once we launch, what's that going to look like? We don't know. In fact, what I always tell people is, guys, I've been doing this for a million years, and the frequency of showings and when they're going to occur is as random as anything. And I've tried to study it, and I've tried to share with people when I think their showings are going to happen. But at the end of the to start. I don't want any showings before 10 a.m. When are you allowed your last showing? We let them set all those parameters. By the way, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, everything will be done with your permission. It's called an appointment only listing. We will ask the agent to keep it to a 30-minute window so we're not bothering you for too much time. And they love to hear that, right? Now, and we're going to ask you to leave about 10 minutes early. Well, why would I do that if it's 3 to 3:30? Because every once in a while agents do show up early and you don't want them blocking you in your driveway. And if you come home and they're still here, that's usually a pretty good sign. Okay. So prepare them for all those calls that we always get that, oh my gosh, they got here early, or I came home and I had to go to the bathroom and they were still looking at my house. Good. Go to the Starbucks and pee. Right? I mean, it's that simple. Okay, so we're mapping out the process for them. We're setting expectations as far as frequency of showings, but we're also letting them know it's as random as anything in the world. I even tell people, I'll go, guys, I'll have listings that'll have a showing a day for 4 days in a row, and then go 4 days without a showing, and then start right back up. And we've done nothing different. It is just the ebb and flow of the buyers in the marketplace. So do not panic. We're watching that like a hawk. We've got this. You hire talented people and you let them do your job in our industry. So then I like to talk about, okay, we're doing all this, then what happens? Well, at some point, and I'm going to tell them how the feedback process works, because I field more phone calls from my sellers about, hey, how come we're not getting feedback? I had 6 showings, only 3 of them gave us feedback, and when 2 of them there wasn't much feedback other than no. So just let them know, hey guys, we're going to try to extract feedback, but agents are inherently lazy and many of them refuse to do it. What I'm looking for is somebody to say, hey, this is in our top 3 and we're coming back for a second look this weekend. That makes my ears perk up and that's going to get me excited. So let them know what that process looks like, and that sometimes the feedback can be quite limited and there's not much we can really do about it. We'll chase it down, but there are no guarantees. If somebody refuses to give feedback, I'll go ahead and let you know they're probably not writing an offer on that listing. I don't know that I can't think of any time where somebody ghosted me and then wrote me an offer. Okay, that's pretty weird. So make your life easier with those kind of conversations. This is the point where I also talk about open houses, whether we choose to do open houses or not. This is a good time to do that because it will come up if their house is on the market for any length of time. Are you going to do any open houses? That's a question I get every single time. So handle that how you choose to handle that. Vacant houses, obviously, we're not running them out of there. They're easy to hold open. You may have a different approach with vacant houses than occupied houses. My nicer occupied houses, and some of you guys will cringe, many of my sellers, I will let them know statistically what the odds of our open house producing a buyer for them, and let them make an educated business decision where they're being run out of their house for 2 hours on a Saturday or Sunday with their dogs and kids is what they want to do for a 1% chance that they're going to procure a buyer from that activity. So most of them at that point are going to say, yeah, let's just kind of hold off on that. That's usually what they say. And then honestly, I'm very candid and I say open means open. I cannot control who's going to come to this house. Looky-loos, Starbucks, people after church, neighbors, those are all regular visitors of the open house process. So I'm candid with people. But if a house is on the market long enough, sometimes then they'll circle back and go, we said we didn't want open houses for all those reasons, but maybe we give it a shot or two, and then we staff an open house for it. So anybody have anything to add with the open house conversation? I'd love to know how other people are handling that.
I'll speak. This is Jen. Open houses for me actually suck, to be honest.
Yeah.
I maybe get 1 or 2 people, but I also do with them in the rural areas versus the Raymore area.
Really? Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Tony
Anybody
had an
else?
interesting one come up. You want to tell him kind of what happened on yours, Tony, to put you on the spot?
Well, again, it's my old people house, and they like to watch, and so there's cameras everywhere except in the bathrooms, and they literally watch and listen to everything. So, um, Stacy was doing one for me, and I couldn't. I was sick, and so I warned her what was going to happen, and sure enough, she gets in there. And all of a sudden, I've got the guy texting me, telling me to let her know to take him in the pantry, show him the pantry. And then after it was clear that they're not, interested in that house, it was too big or what have you, they're asking her about other places around. And she's answering them just like I would if I was in there. And he's flipping out. He's texting me to the point of where I ended up showing up at the open house and was like, and she was doing everything perfectly great. And I ended up standing in front of the camera with her, explaining to her, which I knew she already knew, but explaining to her out loud that this was absolutely expected. If they're clearly not interested in your house anymore and they ask you a question about another house, by all means, you're trying to help them. Your first duty is to sell this house. If it's clear they're not going to, then by all means help them find something else if that's the case, if they're unrepresented. And so she did all that perfectly right, but I made sure that they heard that. And so he still wants us to do open houses. He just wants to make sure that the agents that do our open houses there know about the house. It was scheduled for 1:00. There were people sitting out there at 12:30 walking around the outside of the house, and he's flipping out because she wasn't there yet. Well, I wouldn't get there until about 20 till myself. But she's walking around turning on lights for these people to walk in before 1:00. So I kind of felt bad for her. She did a great job with what she was confronted with, and might have picked up a buyer seller. There were some folks in there interested in the house, but they're not going to go after that house, but they may go after another one, but then they'll sell their house too. So that was great, but it was just uncomfortable for me, but they made it that way for everybody involved. So I assume that's what you're talking about, Jake.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. In my career, I've never heard of that. But of course, now the cameras and all that, that's alarming, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I was doing an open house once, and some people asked me a question, and I wasn't familiar with that particular thing that they had asked, and so they went to go downstairs to look. I said, I'll check that and get right back to you. And they went down the stairs, and a voice from over my shoulder went, "Yes, Tony, this is blah, 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 blah." I'm like, good God. So
Wow. Okay.
it's freaky.
So prepare them, guys. This makes me even think even more about open houses. My goodness. I know a lot of you guys want to do an open house. That you love doing it that first weekend, gives you a chance to possibly double dip, if not pick up a hot prospect. For all those reasons, we do them. But these folks need to understand the statistical success rate of an open house and why that is. Well, why the hell is it? I bought a house on an open house. I hear that one all the time too. And I said, well, here's the thing. In today's world, people want instant gratification. Do you know anybody that doesn't have this in their pocket or their purse? This phone is a phone. They'll go, no. And I said, there's your difference. Years ago, we didn't have the internet at a high level. We didn't have it on our phones. People would wait for the weekends and see if there was an open house, and that's how they saw the house. Now they see the pictures on their phone the second it comes on the market, and they are not waiting for Saturday or Sunday to go look at a house. They're blowing up their agent's phone to see it often, right away. So the open house loses its effectiveness from that standpoint. So if you explain that to people that we're just in a different world, again, it's a business decision whether to do them or not. But sometimes the seller will pivot very quickly on their excitement on having an open house. And again, open means open. You're people with small children. You're people that kind of are worried about their stuff. And it's funny how people that have stuff that isn't worth a nickel, they're worried the most about it. It's funny. But, open means open. And we cannot determine, we cannot pre-select who's going to come through that front door and things like that. So open house, I recommend having a deep dive on each listing. Go ahead and have that conversation. Then let's go ahead and map everything out. Say, hey, guys, all this work we're doing eventually is going to create an offer. I'm going to present the offer to you. We're going to talk about it. I'll do a net sheet. If you remember, I did a net sheet at the time of listing. I'm going to do a net sheet for every offer that comes in, no matter if they're good, bad, or indifferent. And what I often will do is not only will I show you the net sheet, but I'll also put what I think would be a suggested counteroffer if a counteroffer is appropriate. And I said, at the end of the day, it's your house and we'll follow your lead. But very often my clients like to know at least what I think. So let them know what that process looks like. Then when we accept the contract, we go to contract, they put up an earnest deposit, and the ticker starts as far as inspection period. Explain to them what an inspection period is. And I clearly say this, I highly recommend saying it. I know a few of you guys say it verbatim now, is let them know in the state of Missouri, the house, if it has an inspection period, and 10 days is the default and most common, all of our contracts might as well be in a gray area. And they're going, well, B, what do you mean by that? What I simply mean is they can conduct any inspection, no matter how it turns out, and they can opt out of this deal. We have to give them their money back and let them move on. Okay. So I recommend telling people that. Do you guys tell people that? Some version. Come up with your version. It will help you immensely. So they understand. Okay, so inspections are done. Tony wrote us a contract. His people have inspected. What I'm going to see is one of three results. One, they inspected so well, they're going to take it completely as is. That doesn't happen very much. Let them know that. Number two, it inspected so poorly or they changed their mind and they want to opt out. That doesn't happen very much either. What's going to happen 90% of the time is here's the inspections. We love the house, and the but are the things they're going to propose that we repair or compensate for. Okay. And then I'll let them know. Now that starts another period of time. Typically, we have 5 days then to hammer out an agreement. If we can't hammer out an agreement, I usually don't need 5 days, but if we can't, then it becomes cancelable by either party. You guys got that, right? So those are good things to cover early on. You'll have to cover it all over again when they go into contract and remind them. And I often will say that I'm covering it early on, but I'll say, guys, I'll go over all this again with you as we get to these various stages, but I kind of want to just map out the whole process for you now. Anybody have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say on the first seller's net that I send them over and I'm sitting there with them, I will put in the miscellaneous like $1,000 or $2,500 for repairs. So then when those inspection items do come up, I'll say, hey, remember we budgeted for this. This was on our net sheet. It's going to be well under the 2,500. So this is expected. And then that's been a much easier conversation than now we're on a savings instead of a cost. Yeah. Because we already budgeted for it.
There you go. And each house is a little bit different. So you may have a house that's a little boogered up where certainly doing that seems like all but necessary, right? Right. Yeah, you guys just have a plan. Just don't go into this blind. Have a plan. Anybody else?
Jake, I love that on the inspections. You nailed it right there. If you set these sellers up for success and understanding, like, hey, what we find is most of our sellers during the resolution period, what we agree to is right around a half a point to a point, depending on condition of the house, of course, but right around a half a point to a point. So you could expect that as well with your property. And I've added that line item right here for you, just in case. Now, we may do better than that. I don't know, but I want you to be prepared for what that looks like. And man, you breeze through your inspections that, oh yeah, we expected this to come like this. And it just makes sense. So.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jake. I never said that, but that is a great idea. So that way you could anticipate some of the things that might come your way. That's great.
Yeah. Another thing I like to also talk through the process, like Lonnie's saying, but then I also obviously leave them something. This is my buyer guide. I don't have my seller guide, but it's inside. There's a whole map and we go through it at the first meeting and then I leave it with them so they can refer back to it many times along the way. So that's just something I would like. Give me something to hold, something I can look back on. I love that. And then something else I like to do at that time also is to talk about kind of what y'all have already said. But like if we know the roof is, we don't know how old because we've lived here 40 some years and we can't remember the last time it was replaced. It's probably old. It's probably at its end of life. And so it's good to like talk about that. Talk about the old HVAC system that's 23 years old. It still works. It's great, but just prep the sellers like, hey, this is probably going to come up on the resolution. It could. And just already just head that off so that when they talk about it, and they'll say, well, our roof is fine. It's not even leaking. What is the problem? Or our heater's just fine. Why would I replace it? Well, if you've already kind of prepped them for it, they don't freak out as much when it happens. And you look smart because you already kind of anticipated that that was coming.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey guys, what I find is homes in your price range that are getting top dollar, like the comparable sales that we've reviewed, most of those houses are being held accountable from a standpoint of they're going to expect to have an insurable roof. They're going to expect to have adequate heating, cooling, and a safe home. That's what gets those prices that we're discussing here. So you'll get buy-in more often than not by going through that. So we're now at the point where we've hammered out the inspections. By the way, it's not a bad idea, depending on how you like to handle this. I think this is a good pro tip, is we have in our listings that once a house goes to contract, it will go in the show for backup status until we clear the inspection period. And people may ask, what's that mean? You mean I got to continue to show my house? Yeah, you do. And here's why. Did I mention it? The Missouri contract is in a gray area for those 10 days. Do you want to lose complete traction or still have exposure on your house? By the way, very few showings occur in show for backup status. But what happens is we're out there for the general public to still consider, and our phones will still ring. Many of you guys that work with a lot of listings, agents might say, hey, we liked it. We just didn't get to it before you sold it. If anything looks like it's going to blow up, call me first. Okay. To me, that's still good marketing. So explain those stories and have your own version of those stories for these people. So we clear inspections, no more showings. We shut your house down. You can leave the underwear on the floor, not make the bed. Life is good, right? Now what's going to happen is the appraiser is going to come through here, assuming that people are getting a loan and appraisal is necessary. That appraisal is typically going to take place between a week and 10 days after we clear inspections. Most of the time, these appraisals are formalities. I usually have the comparable sales to make a case for what we just sold it for. That being said, it's something we don't take for granted. It is still a critical step in the process. So I suggest that we do at least mention the appraisal process. Once that's good, we're on a clear path towards closing. It's not a bad idea to talk to them about, here's what closing often looks like. Usually a day or two before closing, the agent's going to do a final walkthrough with their people to see that we didn't tear up the house, see that it's in the same condition it was when they bought it. Good business. We highly recommend all buyers doing that. We'll give you plenty of notice so you know when that's going to happen. And then just tell them what closing looks like. Guys, we have a contract on your house. It's closing on a Wednesday. I typically like to bring my sellers in a day ahead of time to sign their docs. Takes about 25 minutes. We'll find out where you want your money sent, that sort of thing. Your buyer comes in on the closing date, and more often than not, we have funds within 24 hours wired into your account. If possession date is different than closing, it's a great time to talk about possession, utilities, and things like that. So, guys, we just talked about 20 different small steps here. And if some of those aren't part of what you think about when you're consulting with people, then I highly recommend you have a physical something to hand them that talks about those key bullet points. Who has anything to add with any of those stages, anything they like to do differently? By the way, this is just my thoughts on things. Feel free to share anything you do differently. Like I said, Brandy has this thing that she hands buyers. I love that.
This is Ashley. I'm sitting back in the training room with Steve, so we're sharing his computer. I just had a couple things on open houses, and a lot of it's stuff that I actually got from Brandy's open house class last month. So thank you, Brandy, for that, because my stuff looked real nice and pretty. But I felt more prepared going into my open house, and I think that's super important, especially because it wasn't my listing. So I didn't have all of that background knowledge that a listing agent would hopefully have. But I put together a binder that had everything in it, a copy of the seller's disclosure, the 360 view from MLS, all of that. Nice, pretty binder I could just leave sitting on the counter. And I did the feedback forms on clipboards, like Brandy had talked about. And for the most part, I was able to get people to take those, either take them and walk around with them to give kind of feedback on the house, or they filled them out while they talked to me afterwards. But with that, to get people to the open house, I actually posted on, tons of Facebook community groups in the area. The biggest conversation piece I got from those listings, or for that specific listing though, I posted it on Marketplace. My dad was the listing agent, so I verified and I put, all the legalities that it was his listing or whatever in the notes. But I got 15 conversations just from posting it on Marketplace, and 4 of those people showed up to the open house. So I got full contact info from them there. And then when we did a price drop, I had all those people in my messenger and was able to just shoot over a message and like, hey, just wanted to let you know, price changed on this house. If you're still interested, if not, I might have another one you can look at. I got phone numbers and emails. They're in my database just to kind of keep them on that trickle. So also, if anyone doesn't want to go through the work of putting your listings on Marketplace, hit me up. I'll help you out. I'll help you find a buyer.
Perfect. Yeah, don't expect, guys, if you're doing open houses, you're not going to be the foremost expert on the house. You can do all the research you want. Never get put in a bad position. I know that was a little unique in that Tony had a guy literally over his shoulder, but even at houses I know well, I don't know everything about it. I'm trying to build rapport with the people that come in there, and I'll answer questions the best of my knowledge. And then if there's things that say, hey guys, if I can get your name and number, I'll circle back to you with any questions you have on this house. I'm going to do that every single time. I get calls on my listings, sign calls and all that people are like asking me 15 different questions about this and that. And I can tell they're just going to ask me 10 more. And that's when I'll be like, hey, I'm taking some notes here. Hit me with all these questions. I think I know the answers to most, but let me get your email and I'll circle back to you with the answers on some of these things. That's been a good approach. I don't like to be backed into a corner ever. And people don't expect you to know everything about the house other than Tony's guy, I think. So appraisal process, closing, funding, what's all that look like? All really important to talk about. So we just covered literally 20 key steps in this process. There's a lot to what we do. By the way, when you're explaining this to people, it also shows, holy smokes, the typical seller has no idea how many different things go on in this process. You've heard that sometimes people think we get a little overpaid. The more they see that we're accountable to and is done, the more value I think that we present. So let's flip over to the buyer side of it. Very much the same, in my opinion. Initial consultation, early. Yeah, we're not going to buy until after the kids, finish their summer break. Oh, awesome. Let's. What I found is I like to get people in as early as possible to at least have a preliminary consultation, so we can set the expectations and so on and so forth. Pre-approval, obviously, we want to be able to get that process done. Well, yeah, but I don't want them to have to run my credit a bunch of times. Guys, early. Get it done. The lender will keep things current. You'll be in good shape. By the way, has anybody ever had somebody say, hey, I'm not going to buy until October, November, and all of a sudden they're blowing your phone up in May going, well, we saw this house we want to see. Has that ever happened to anybody? Okay. By the way, it happens all the time. So we want that consultation. We want the pre-approval in place. I highly recommend, we're not buying until September, October. Let's go ahead and set up an auto search, realizing these aren't houses that you're going to buy or maybe even be interested in, but you'll get a feel for what the market looks like in the price range you're looking for. You guys see how important that is? Okay. Now, guess what ends up happening? They're seeing these houses come and go. They sometimes will see one that they're blown away with, and then boom, here comes the call. Hey, I know we said September, but we've got to see 123 Main Street listed by Brandy. It looks amazing. Okay. So thankfully you had them on that search and they're calling you because you did your job there. What also happens, and the value in that search, is they see the velocity of how quickly houses come to market, right? they will see enough houses, and this is a line I've used for years. Guys, you'll see so many houses coming and going that you'll get a really good feel of what it's going to take to truly make you happy price-wise. And they love that. I said, you'll almost be like a little appraiser. You'll have a really good idea of what your price range looks like. Anybody have anything to add to that?
I have a couple of questions if I can snag them in before the end of our call.
Let's go. Go.
I did set up a search because I met with some folks and their price was a lot more than everything else in their subdivision has been selling for. So I am hopeful that what you just said, Lonnie, will resonate on that factor, or they just need to, maybe hold tight in the house for a little bit longer to get a little bit more equity. So days on market right now, like my listing in Peculiar, it's 475, it's 3 acres, 3 bed, 3 bath. It's not been like updated. Like the bathrooms aren't, it's original from the 1990s. And then it's got a really great shop with concrete floors and electricity and an awesome sun porch. I had good showings. Open houses went well. Thank you to our agents in our office who did those. I don't like doing them, so I'm grateful for my friends. And I had no showings last week and none this week. When would be a good time to start considering a price drop? It's only been on market since February 14th. And then, can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay. And then my other thought was, I know the market was 75 days on market in Cass County for January of 2026, but I think these other factors are also playing a part. I've talked to a couple different mortgage lenders that are getting applications, but they're not seeing a lot of contracts the past week and a half. And it's possibly due with the war in Iran, the situation going on in Mexico. People are waiting on their tax funds, and it's kind of that midpoint of they're waiting for school to be out. What's your all's thoughts? When is a good time to start discussing a price change? And are you guys seeing this impacting your listings as well?
Yesterday.
Yeah. It depends on obviously the type of product. There are many listings that are so unique that you need time more than you need price. You just have to be patient. I think, when you talk small acreage, you're in Rapex schools, there's a lot to like. My guess is the dated feature of the house is limiting its buyer pool considerably. So we can only fight that with patience and price, and they get to decide which. So, but often there's a range that, if I saw a property and I said, hey guys, we're going to be in that 400 to 450 range, they set it at the top of the range. Usually this tells me we got to start working it down in the range. Who else has anything to add to help Shelby with that?
Yeah, I think it just the price is probably what's holding it back. For the condition.
Yeah, there's a buyer for everything at the right price. And if we've had a house on the market 30 days and just a couple of showings, especially in small acreages, great school district, those houses should be getting hit pretty good. Now, if all of a sudden you added, oh, by the way, it's a 2-bedroom log home, then hey, wait a minute, that's a whole different story. But if it's rather conforming, the dated feature is probably its biggest limitation. Shelby, I'm happy to look at the comparables with you and share any thoughts. Keep in mind with your people, don't hesitate to talk about what we said early on in this, as far as showings are impossible to predict, and we can literally go 10 days without a showing and have 3 days in a row where we have a show. So it is that hard to predict.
And, and what's their motivation? Do they have a timeline when they need to move? That plays into when you want to do a price cut too.
Right. Perfect.
You bet. And if you talked about ranges early on, which is what we try to train to, are you at the bottom of the range, top of the range? My guess is you're probably at the top of the range. Like most people want to start at the top. So a tiered strategy, teamify it with, hey, many of us believe a tiered strategy is in the seller's best interest. It lets us put a toe in the water at a price level and let the market tell us if we're right or wrong. That way, it's not you telling them, it's the market telling us we need to make adjustments. And then they love to hear that, because especially if you can layer that with the comment that by doing this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what we find is our sellers are very satisfied when we eventually get our contract, because they know we've tested the market to extract the maximum amount of money the market will allow.
Okay.
Anybody else have any problems they want to share? Anything they need to kind of group therapy on?
I've got one.
Yep.
What do you guys do with asbestos insulation in the attic?
Don't touch it.
Leave it alone.
Leave it.
Yeah, I figured we just kind of would spray some lead-based paint over top of it, kind of
That's a good
encapsulate it,
idea. Good call.
but we don't need to remove it.
No, you just don't want to mess with it. Just like asbestos siding, just don't use it. Don't mess with it.
That's kind of what I figured, but I think this is the first house I've ever had with asbestos insulation. Doesn't seem to be real popular.
I think you're supposed to route your radon exhaust pipe into the attic, and that offsets each other.
Oh
Yeah,
my
negative
God.
times a negative. Got
Maybe
it.
get a
Hold on.
mold
So
petri
radon.
dish going.
A lot of your old popcorn ceilings before the mid '80s probably have asbestos on them too. So
Yeah, the sparkly stuff.
yep.
Yeah. And that's what the insulation looked like too. It was all sparkly. It looked like sparkly gravel. That was kind of cool. There was also a dead possum underneath that house. So that's fun.
Nice.
Sounds like a deal.
What else? Who else has a challenge? Anybody need group therapy on something?
I do. This is Jen again.
Yeah.
So the house that I have currently listed, I listed it based on the houses that were selling in the area, days on the market, and everything else. Around the same time, there was another house that got listed, a lot higher than ours because it had 4-bedroom, 2-bath versus my 3-bedroom, 1-bath. House comes in a week later and short sales everything. Basically, they could have gotten so much more out of the house, but they put it at a very low price range. So now my buyer's sitting there like, and this got sold, of course, same day on the market. So now my buyer's like, okay, what do we do? Do we need to drop the price more? Like, we've only been on the market for 20 days. And I'm like, or not even 20 days yet. And I'm like, just breathe. I said, it's going to take a minute. Like, especially if you want this out of your house. And truly, I think it's worth it in the market. But because this dude came in and short saled everything and kind of just marked it at a very low price and played his numbers, it kind of screws both the other houses on each side. Does that make sense?
Yep. So that's just having a conversation and go, hey, based on what we looked at in the data, if one particular seller has a motivation that's, to sell the house fast, it usually means at an extremely low price. That's their prerogative. It's just not the play we're going to run. Again, you just teamified it with the people. I think when we looked at the data, here's where we thought the range was. I think that's still the case. This piece of data was a bit of an outlier. And you'll see that sometimes. Money isn't always the priority for everybody. So if somebody wants to sell 10, 20% below the market, let them do it. It's just one piece of data. You didn't know about that data anyway. So let's focus on the other data that led you to the price that you're at now. Anybody have anything else to add to Jen's little quandary there?
Nope.
Yeah, one distressed sale doesn't set the comp for the whole neighborhood either. There's outliers everywhere, so just make sure you pay attention to those.
Yeah, and you can see some outliers to the upside too. Every once in a while, you'll see, especially with acreage, you'll see somebody that just crushes it at a number that almost didn't make sense. Hey, they found that needle in a haystack buyer, the lottery ticket guy. Then you have to ask your sellers, do we want to sit on the sidelines and try to find that lottery ticket buyer? I mean, unfortunately, what ends up happening when you get one to the high side, then everybody chases that number. And then you see a lot of houses too high and lingering on the market until they start working themselves down.
Mm-hmm.
So then
I usually blame the appraiser on those ones. Be like, yeah, that was probably a cash deal. I don't know if we'll get it to appraise for that. Kind of blame somebody else other than the market or me.
You bet. All right, guys, thanks for joining us today. It's good to have 24, 25 people, I think, at our tops here for the Thursday 30 conversation. So apparently I need to recruit more people. That's on me. But anyway, have a great day. Let's go sell some houses, guys.
Thanks, Lonnie.
See you guys. Bye.